Good afternoon and welcome to Super Secret Project Sketch. This is Eric Whalen from Super Secret Project X. I did it. I did it. I did the thing. All right, so today I'm going to pick one of my old favorites. Back in high school, I was really. The word obsessed isn't correct, but the next closest word to obsessed with Fist of the North Star.
You really digging it.
I did. I dug. I still do. I have a tendency of preferring JoJo's Bizarre Adventures over it because I think the conflicts are a little bit more creative, but I like the mythological martial artness of Fist of the North Star. So I'm going to do Kenshiro today. And by the way, this panel here is one of the shots from the manga I love. And you can see on screen here, it is probably the biggest tiger I've ever seen, and is just eyeing Kenshiro, and Kenshiro's got a zero expression. And then this is my favorite two-bit disease down here. This is a look of abject terror in the eyes of the tiger, and Kenshiro entirely unimpressed. That is what I love about Kenshiro. Yes, are there potentially cooler characters out there? Not many. But the thing that and a lot of people kind of look at Kenshiro, I think, is just sort of an over-the-top, just kind of joke, because they kind of keep showing him the same way. But I just love the fact, zero fear. It's just tiger, zero fear. So perfectly ridiculous. That's why I love the character. So anywho, I am swing past Darkwing Duck there. Yeah. Nice.
So there's a comic I've been reading. This is the second episode called Lucy Claire Redemption. It's a pseudo-future werewolf story. And one of the characters, I love this guy because he's kind of like he's a light-skinned black guy, but he's like kind of like proper, but he's like fights with knives and kills werewolves. I just like his design.
Yeah, it's a nice design. Yeah. The nearly neon green werewolf was a nice touch.
It was a plant-based mutation.
A plant-based werewolf.
Yes.
Like sort of like a broccoli werewolf. Would that have given it some form of vegetative fro?
I think it's I think it's plant-based. I'm flipping through it now. I haven't actually read through it, but it's in my pile to read. And I like to flip through before I do a read when it comes to stuff to see what I'm getting into. Most of the time.
It's actually kind of funny. I don't know. It's funny. It's funny to me. When you see Kenshiro artwork, it's sort of the current design of him, which is not bad. I'm not complaining at all. But I kind of like the earlier design, and they make him like super thin-faced, which he sort of was a little bit in the original designs. Not to say that he wasn't. I think that was just that the manga, the guy that had done the artwork had just sort of changed over the years. But it's you're currently getting like they're only kind of showing him a couple ways, and I like the manga version because I think it was the fact that he was a little over the top, but he was also a little kind of normal looking. I mean, yes, giant eyebrows, blah blah blah, but kind of normal, and I think that's just sort of awesome, really. I think it was, and it's no offense to people who like stuff like Yu-Gi-Oh! And stuff, but every single design is so freaking ridiculous and so extremely excessive that it just sort of all blurs together into a big pile of silliness, and I can't connect to any of it. And at least with this, I'm going like, I get it. He's like 500 pounds of like stud muscle. But you look at him face-wise, and it's not like he's got like hair fists coming off of his head for no apparent reason. He's just sort of a normal-ish, a bit handsome, a bit not, super impressive, but also like just kind of a dude, you know. And yeah, there were some other characters in the series that were a little bit more excessive, but I think that's what I liked about Fist is, and crazy stuff did happen in it. I mean, no doubt. In the animated version, definitely a lot of. I think he fought a gang with construction equipment at one point in time, and so he was like beating up bulldozers and stuff, and that was pretty funny. I don't remember that ever happening in the manga, but you know, I mean, awesome. I'm not gonna turn my nose up to that. I'm just not. Okay, so basically what I'm doing here, and it's a bit of a mess, but I'm just trying to lay out a bunch of sort of the landmark sort of bits of his face and leave some of it just kind of open for now as I'm just sort of figuring some of these bits off. So once I kind of get the eyes roughly in the right spot, I kind of go, okay, he's got a little bit in the way of cheekbones, not huge, but enough that it's something that I can go in and put on there. And it has been years since I have drawn this character. It has. I used to try. I had a couple decent ones of him, but I don't remember ever actually nailing it. Right? So let me see if I can. Alright, so, yep. Nose. So love how just almost ridiculously thin his nose is. Like he's been punched in the face so many times. You'd figure he'd be kind of mangled looking. But no, he's got sort of this delicate, thin nose. Which makes... I mean, I guess that's they were trying to make him a little handsome, so I can kind of see that. There we go. Push that chin forward a little bit. He's got a bit of the butt chin going on there. He does. He's got a bit of a butt chin. Bit of a butt chin. Crazy jawline. Hmm?
The booty chin.
Got some of that booty chin.
Yeah, I'm trying to come up with stuff to talk about. I am like.
No, it's okay.
I'm drained.
It has been a bit of a week.
I got nothing.
I got nothing. Actually, I'll be honest with you, and I like a lot of the new artwork coming out because Japan, on average, really embraces the super simplified look, which is great. But I'll be honest with you, I do miss this stuff. This was one of the original reasons why I wanted to become a comic book artist because, I know how quickly you can actually ink this and get this sort of stuff done if you know what you're doing, but that's really striking. You know, a lot of the new stuff that I really like it for other reasons, typically not because it's striking in appearance, you know. And I think in JoJo's in the manga form and in the anime, but the manga form is almost the same, if not the same level of kind of just dots and scratches and lines and thick black areas and yada yada. And you know, I actually kind of feel because I do like the early JoJo's manga, but it was not as well done as Fist was. Um, and I think he was Araki was going after trying to somewhat emulate it because Fist was very successful, so that makes sense. Um, so it took him a little while to catch up. I think once he did, it looked really, really nice. But I kind of miss that school. Every single time I open up one of these older manga, I'm like, man, look at all the dirt and crap and scratches and yada yada. He goes, oh yeah, and I look at some of the new stuff and go, cool designs and this and that, and then you kind of go, it's kind of smooth. Other than that, and that's not everything clearly, because there's some stuff that isn't that way, but.
Yeah, 'cause I think there's actually a lot that's actually out there now that is doing that. It's just the fact that you, depending on what you want to read.
Well, clearly, I mean, I'm not saying that it doesn't exist. I'm just saying when I open up some of the older stuff, it has kind of a really nice roughness and heaviness to it, which
I think is probably from a lot of just from using real media as opposed to digital.
Yeah, and I think digital is starting to get to the point where people can start really doing that again.
Oh yeah, a lot of stuff I've seen people doing digital with digital emulation, basically of real media, has been absolutely amazing.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to kind of continuing to see sort of hopefully this come back, because I have seen some of it, and I'm like, it's really nice. So it's not that I want the kind of more modern, smoother stuff to go away at all, but especially when it comes to like action and not necessarily violent, but some of it is pretty violent. But like the action stuff where it was like JoJo's and Fist, both being kind of bloody, sort of. Okay. There we go. I think the pupils in there. Yep. There we are. But yeah, I'm not going to sit there and do like a review of Fist of the North Star. What I wish they would do, and I really mean this, because when I was a teenager, a friend of mine up in Traverse City, he had all of Fist untranslated with the commercials and everything on VHS. So we watched 150 episodes of Fist we had sort of some note translations, but that was about it. And which was awesome. But now I'm kind of, and there was some flaws. And I love that series, but there was some flaws. There was some stuff that was awesome, like it was perfect. I wouldn't change anything. But they went away from the manga in many spots, and they sort of made some stuff up, and the rhythm and the places was good for a TV show, but didn't have everything from the manga.
Sorry, just the juxtaposition of that just made me cracking up.
Nice. And
sorry. Fist of the North Star, talking about George having it, and friend of Traverse City.
I'll think of that in a minute. Yeah, it's gone. It's gone. I'm sure it'll maybe come back in a minute. Oh, right, there it is. Just found it. So I'm kind of hoping that, like what they did with JoJo's, where they went back, well, not even went back, because JoJo's never had a full animated version. They had a bunch of OVAs, but and did all of the manga. And they've had some new Fist stuff, but which is funny, one of which was sort of a chibi Fist of the North Star, which I didn't care for most of it, but I loved the spots where they went back to the original series and then sort of kind of made fun of it. But when they were making fun of it, they essentially were reanimating the original show in the original's actually a little bit better of a style with a little bit better of a budget. And it was really good. Okay, and it was funny because they were making fun of it, but I was watching going like, no, give me actually Fist like this. I want to see this. I'm kind of going like, I want them to basically sort of go back and reanimate Fist and do more like the manga and just because I mean I think it's working very well with JoJo's, and there were some seasons that had more money than other seasons and blah blah blah. So it's not like to say that everything was perfect with JoJo's, but overall, really enjoyed it. Yeah, these eyebrows are so beefy.
Beefy brow. That's a great name for like a
Beef bro.
yeah, like a sounds like something like an insult a '90s cartoon. Where do you think you're going, beef brow?
Where you going, beef bro? Beef bro.
Either that or that's what the main character would call the main antagonist. Go over there, freaking beef bro won't leave me alone.
Beef bro.
Hey, beef bro. Shut up, Thompson.
Shut up, Thompson. Whatever, beef bro. It's so funny. Yeah, I mean, it's what I find so funny, and it deserves it too. I get it. I'm not an idiot. The sort of the fun that people make of like the Japanese massive muscle, overly masculine boys comic cartoon sort of stuff, and some of it is really ridiculous. But that's also what's kind of amazing about it. Is just because I'm unlike a lot of people, perhaps in politics, I'm not against the ultra manly masculine stuff. I just know that it can get toxic, but it's not all toxic. And so there's like this old world kind of mythological, the heroes of myth, and those were typically, but not all, sort of big manly man types. And I don't want that stuff to go away. I just don't think everything has to be like it.
Absolutely.
And so kind of like Fist is like a good representation of, because Kenshiro was a really disciplined, kind, loving person who has killed tens of thousands of people. Which is, why he's sort of like this ultra dangerous martial art kind of character. But also like there's just this wonderful humanity about him at the same time. Like he lives in almost the worst of times, if not the worst of times, and he kind of has to shovel out kind of horrific justice. And meanwhile, I mean, I'm serious, there's one of my favorite bits in all of Fist, because it's just this little moment of pure humanity and all of this horrific insanity. And Kenshiro has done similar, but this was with Rei, one of Kenshiro's friends, who dies in a hideous way. Is Rei's traveling and story going on, blah blah blah, but he kind of pauses after like a scene, and there's this little boy and the boy's tiny sister, and they're just clearly starving, covered in filth, blah blah blah. Most of the children in Fist of the North Star. And Rei looks at them and, without saying anything, pulls a gigantic bar of chocolate out of his pack and hands it to the little boy. And he doesn't say anything. He just watches. That's actually one of the neat things is Let me see what kind of kid this kid is. And so the boy unwraps the chocolate, and then he breaks the bar in half, but it didn't break in half. It broke in 2/3 and 1/3. And he looks at it, and he's starving, and he looks up at Ray, and Ray says nothing. And without a second thought, the little boy hands the 2/3 to his little sister. And Ray just looks at him and says, "You're a good boy." And then goes, it was just this really wonderful, and there's lots of little moments like that in Fist where it's not all the big manlies, it's the, what is it to actually be a human being in these times of unbelievable inhumanity. And then there's people exploding and stuff from fist strikes and yada yada. I'm not excluding how kind of over the top Fist is. I'm just simply saying that they mixed it with this other stuff, which was really, really cool.
If the kid would have not did that, they would have killed the kid.
No. The way they probably would have done it is Ray kind of just would have given him a bad look and walked off and shook his head. Because there's a lot of stuff in Fist where it's like there's too much to save, so even the heroes that are trying to do stuff kind of can't save the world. They're just trying to do sort of what they can. And that usually means that, unfortunately, and they save a lot of innocent people, but you just get to a point where you're like, okay, well, you're going to be a horrible human being in, 5 or 6 years. I'm going to leave you alone, I'll come see you when you're older and I can legally punch you, And I don't seem like a total monster in the manga. Can't forget to do the mega neck. Never forget the mega neck. That's why Kenshiro can get kicked in the head so hard and not break his neck because of mega neck.
Isn't that a song from the Chuck D album?
Mega neck?
Hey y'all, don't forget the mega neck.
Kenshiro up in the house. Featuring Mega Neck. So stupid. Oh, it's so funny.
Freaking love Chuck D. You make anything sound awesome.
The funny thing, I was about to add more of a flow into Ken's neck and stuff, and sometimes there is, but then I just realized even when he's really fluid looking and stuff, just still has this thick,
He's a pillar.
straight solidity to him. So I was going to do something clever with the neck, and I'm like, no, maybe that's probably the wrong move. Let me just,
He's a freaking pillar for
he's just this like mega dude. I actually kind of wish they would go back and do Fist and really do a nice job of it, because that's the one thing that I kind of like. It's actually the one thing that I think JoJo's misses out on, which sounds so weird. There's moments of morality tales in Fist, which you wouldn't think would be there. Tales of morality and honor and what it is to be a good person. And the thing is it's barbaric and violent and dark and all the stuff that, angst-filled boys really gets into, including the man's got a bit of a killer mullet. He's like sort of a scrubby, violent, kind of advertisement for what like little boys on average kind of get into. He's the Dark Avenger, blah blah blah. He's kind of a Japanese Batman kind of character.
I was going to say he's more of the Savage World He-Man.
Yeah, he's sort of the martial arts He-Man character, except that, and this is going to sound weird because He-Man is not like this, but I really think He-Man would be better if it was a little bit more like this. Keep some of the weird camp because that's what makes it fun, but the brutality in Fist was unbelievably entertaining at times. And there were other times where it was so horrific that you were just going like, okay, they're making this horrible on purpose. There's moments in it where you just go like, oh, dude, no. You know, because some of the villains were monsters. I mean, some of the villains were legitimately horrific human beings. And then some of the other villains, which was really interesting, and this is going to sound weird, but some of them actually weren't terrible, terrible people. They were just like people doing what they thought was right in like that time period. So you'd hit moments where you would see them in a good light, but then you'd see them in a bad light, and then you'd see them ended pretty quickly. And then there were the villains that were just no black and white. They were, or no grays. It was black and white. They were a hideous, monstrous creature of a person. You know, and Kenshiro and Rei, and any of some of the other heroes in the series would come in and just whoop the crap out of them in some horrible way, and you just go like, "That's what you deserve," you know. That's what you get, you know. But yeah, but not all of them. That was the great things. There were just moments. Like little teeny moments where some of them you'd be like, oh, you could probably... Matter of fact, there were even times where Kenshiro even spared people. He would usually horrifically cripple them so they couldn't keep doing what they were doing. But he'd be like, all right, now you now go off down the street. Now you get to sweep roads for the rest of your life. He's like, because you're a horrible person, but you know, you probably don't quite deserve to die, but you deserve to be crippled and spend a life being humble. No, I'm dead serious. You hit moments like that where you're going like, what? You know, like, it's like, he just crippled in the name of justice, you know? That's saying something, you know?
Yeah, honestly, I can't say if a lot of that would even be, or would be able to be gotten away with today, because
I think it would. I think if people grew up again instead of this save the children garbage.
Well, I'll say more for, I don't know, because unfortunately I haven't seen much. We haven't just haven't been watching a lot of Japanese anime or anime.
Well, some of it's still really brutal, but it doesn't have the same heart.
That's what I'm saying. I don't know if any of that's still going nowadays, because I haven't been consuming much of the...
Well, the last couple of years I've consumed some stuff that I really enjoyed, but I was going like, Jesus, like there's moments in Attack on Titan, and admittedly I'm a little behind on it, but and the thing is they spared watching specifically a lot of stuff, but there's still parts in there where I was going like, oh man, that is dark.
I couldn't watch that. I was like, you know what, I gotta go like watch some Puppies and Kittens plays.
Yeah.
And I literally needed a palate cleanser for my soul after watching it. So
yeah. And the thing was, but I admit, because of the outrageous darkness in spots, it really pumped up the weight of when things, you know, those moments where the heroes come in and really do stuff.
But there was so few in between.
You were absolutely right. And so that's why I'm like, so I'm trying not to judge, because it was effective. And there was a lot of moments where I was like, yeah, and there's a lot of moments I'm like, In Fist, and I'm not saying it's better or worse, it's just different. There was quite often like moments where you're like, okay, this is why this is happening. Here's finally a release to all this darkness, blah blah blah, and there was like like I said, there's morality tales and this sort of stuff, which is why I thought, especially for like when I was a teen, that actually kind of meant a lot. Because usually when America does morality tales, it's moronic. I hate saying that, but you get a lot of stuff where it's like, and I love G.I. Joe, but the knowing is half the battle sort of stuff is just like so pandering and stupid that even when I was a kid, I was like, okay, some of them I thought were sort of funny, but overall I was like, Jesus, really?
They had to do that for the sake of the I don't know if I'm just completely blanking on it, but basically the we have to watch for the children. The education boards and stuff like that. Like they were like
That was a
they
bad
had to
idea.
put some type of educational thing on there
It's a
to
bad
keep it
idea.
going. I mean, a lot of the cartoons when we were growing up.
You already go to school.
Had to
That's
have-
where you go for education.
Yeah, and I agree with you, but unfortunately, American entertainment.
I'm glad that slowed down because even as a kid, I was getting real sick of it.
It was one of the last things I saw that night. Laughed because it just disappeared was when My Little Pony first started in 2010. It had the IE, was it E/I or I/E in education. And
Oh,
and,
yeah.
a stamp on there just saying it was approved by this particular.
Sure.
By I want to say by like the end of like the second or third season, it was
Gone.
gone.
Well, and that's because, and I mean this, I'm not saying there shouldn't be stuff educationally for kids. Because the stuff in Fist, that was like the morality tales and stuff, to me, that is a form of education. It's giving people like different examples of like how people act under different circumstances and stuff. But when it's like educational and good for the kids, it's basically pandering to them in such a way that it's like basically it's treating them like they're stupid, you know, and that's I can't stand that. I can't stand kids being treated like they're stupid because guess what, that creates stupid adults, and I hate that
Well, that's
stuff.
the difference between animation in Japan versus America.
But it's changing over here finally.
Oh, it finally
fortunately.
is. I'll say, but back in the day, that was the difference between. Well, because of that, because Japan treated animation as an actual
Art form.
genre,
Yeah.
art form, and so it was for everybody. And I mean, a lot of the stuff that over there that was deemed for kids was literally for kids. I mean, again, My Little Pony was over there and was actually shown in the prime kids time slots, which were usually like in the early mornings to early afternoons. And then all of the other stuff that came on was more afternoons to evenings because animation was prime time because it was for everybody, or it was made for a certain. It was actually going like, no, this is the stuff that's either all ages or for the older kids and older adults. Like the super duper kid stuff was done in the early mornings for the little kids.
Yeah, and I'm still all for like specifically little kid stuff. You know, I have no problem with like the Sesame Street kind of education for tiny kids, because you know, ABCs 1 2 3s. You know, look at the, you know, this is a square, yada yada. I mean, I learned a lot when I was a little kid. I'm talking about after that. I'm talking about, you know, the kids that are in like mid to late elementary school and up, where they start to really get a nuanced look at how things work. You know.
And a lot of that stuff we did see. I mean, I still chuckle to this day when, like, several times when your mom was like, with G.I. Joe, I should have never let you watch that. And I just
like,
chuckle. I'm just like, why not?
And I remember, and Dad was always like, I thought that was a cool show. You know, give Mom credit. She stepped back and you know, she was like, nope, this is what they want to watch. This is what they're into. I'm not gonna get in the way of that. And, you know, I think there's a lot of people today that could take that lesson, to be honest, of, you know, no, just you're not right about everything. Step back, remove yourself, let the child be part of the current environment. You know, if they're showing an interest, like if little boys show an interest in My Little Pony, let them watch My Little Pony. If little girls wants to, you know, watch an action show with some violent stuff in it, guess what? That's not going to turn them into a psycho. It's just not. And My Little Pony's not going to turn little boys into gay little boys. It's just not. It makes no sense.
And I can honestly say I was lucky enough to come from a family where we all watched cartoons together. And I mean,
Yeah.
my mom and dad, I think, as a matter of fact, a lot of my animation and cartoon love came from them because we would all sit down and watch a lot of the old Bugs Bunny and Tex Avery, the MGM stuff.
I love those.
And, and we were literally like, oh, it's our favorite one. Let's all sit down and watch. And we just crack up laughing at a lot of that stuff. And Now, granted, after like a lot of the Saturday morning stuff, that was all me getting up and doing it myself. Excuse me. But yeah, like from in the beginning, yeah, a lot of that old school stuff was like my family. We all sat and we watched that stuff together. I mean, some of my favorite times is me and my dad sitting watching cartoons together and just cracking up laughing at stuff. And yeah, I mean, it just it goes to show. It's like it's if you sit down and explain to kids what's going
Yeah.
on.
Talk to them. Use that as a mind expanding experience instead of a, oh no, don't look, don't look.
Yeah.
Oh.
Or you can't watch that.
Yes.
Why? Because why? Because I said so. Like
That's not an answer to a kid.
Yeah.
That's just going to frustrate the kid and make them mad.
I know it made me mad.
It made me mad too. My parents didn't do it to me a ton, but when they, when I did get that kind of an answer, it frustrated me.
Yeah, same here. I think I frustrated my dad also because I remember asking
Well-
why. He was like, "You ask a lot of questions, you know that."
Well, to be fair, you do,
Yeah, and
which is fine.
For a
But there's
reason.
moments where I'm just like, honey, I'm out. I don't know what to say.
stuff needs to be found out. Stuff needs to be done. I want to figure out how it needs to be done and get it
No,
done.
no, I understand that, but there's a point where it's just like, hon, stop. I don't know. I wish I did. You
And
know?
to this day, that's why I always find out and go do stuff for myself and read for myself because, like, well, nobody wants to give me any answers. I'm gonna find out for my own.
Yeah, well, then that's really the only way to do it. So,
It's looking good.
yeah, it ain't bad. Turning out a little better than I was
Excuse me,
hoping.
sorry.
Hmm?
I burped. I said, "Excuse me, sorry." I don't know if you caught
Oh.
that on me.
Quite often, I have no clue what's going on under those circumstances. What? Ooh. Oh, it's okay.
It was a pudding burp.
Was it pudding burp? Oh, how's my little pudding burp?
Better now.
Awesome.
Well, I got that out of the way.
Now that I got the pudding burp out of the way.
Like watching tar bubble. Yeah.
Woof.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's some of the new versions of Ken are actually quite nice, but I just got to admit that I think they overdo him a little bit now. Like when he first showed up in the manga, he was big too. He was a big dude, no doubt about that. But he more often than not was not as big as everybody else was. So he didn't just seem just freakishly gigantic, and that's kind of how they draw him now, which is cool, but I just liked it when he wasn't. And now they're covering and they're kind of doing what's always on the covers, which is a little bit like JoJo's, where he's got a bunch of fancy stuff on him. Again, cool, but I kind of preferred it from the early manga period, where it was a little bit more like Mad Max. You know, he had some ornamentation, a little bit, but not much. It was just the shoulder pad and the leather jacket, and I'm not sure if those were blue jeans or exactly what kind of pants he had, but it was simple, just very simple looking. And then which made it all the more iconic when all this stuff would come out. You just see all the strained muscle and the little dipper. Finger scars in his chest, and it kind of framed everything together. But now they have all this stuff on him, and they kind of make his jaw super sharp and his hair super up, not Dragon Ball Z but a little bit, not exactly, and I just kind of go no, there's nothing wrong with it. I've seen a couple of them where I'm like, that's a cool image, but I'm also kind of going I kind of liked it when he was a little simpler, because he was already iconic. Now you're doing iconic plus, and it's so let's tone that down just a little bit, He's already the dude, You don't need to make him the dude plus. It's already the dude. Oh, yeah. My brain just flashed back the live action one MTV did a long time ago. I don't know why anybody thought it was a good idea to do a live action Fist unless it had an unbelievable budget to make it, look and act right. I just don't even, I can't even fathom the thought process of, we'll just quickly throw together a Fist of the North Star live action movie. It would be like doing a cheap live action JoJo's. You just go like, what? Look, there's gore special effects, and then there's the budget required to do Fist of the North Star level gore special effects, plus the crazy freaking kind of sets and costumes, and I'm almost certain that Kenshiro himself is a special effect. He just doesn't seem like you could just find a dude to actually play him. I mean, maybe you could, but in nothing against the poor guy they got to play him in the live action movie, but was like, what? Why this guy? Like, he's tiny.
I don't even remember.
Oh, it's a good thing that you don't remember.
Yeah, I remember hearing about it, but it's just one of those kind of like faded almost fever dreams of, wait, did this actually happen?
Yeah, no. It was one of those ones where you kind of go like, it's so bad that it's not even good, and it's nothing against people who like it, but I just go like, I guess if I wasn't a Fist fan, it would seem kind of awesome. But since I'm a Fist fan, that makes it hard to digest something that is that far off.
I think it would be like if you weren't a fan, you'd probably be like, what the heck is this?
Well, no, that's the thing is if you're not a fan of something, then any amount of quality that is there, you'd be able to easily see. And anything that's wrong wouldn't bug you. So you could look at it and go like, oh, it's just a silly, ridiculous martial arts flick, blah, blah, blah. It's a whole lot better than this crappy thing I watched last weekend, yada, yada. But it wasn't Fist is the problem. It's like, I don't foresee ever watching the Ready Player One movie because I liked the books. Or book. Books. Chat. Book. And I just don't see the point in watching the live action movie if it doesn't resemble the books. I just don't. I just make that movie and call it something else. I might be interested, but it's just like, I'm good. No offense. I'm trying not to be a snob. I am, but no, I can't do that. I am. I'm totally trying not to be a snob, but that's really a hard call. It's like a football fan being, hey, let's watch this game of football, and it's really sort of like clown golf, and they'd just be sitting there going like, what the heck is this? Well, they're wearing football pads. That's not enough. It's just not enough. I'm not a football fan, but I know that football fans would not want to sit down and watch clown golf where everyone is wearing football pads and call it football. It just doesn't make any sense. That ain't too bad. Okay. One of my favorite parts. Oh, I forgot. Put a shadow in.
I'm brushing my teeth.
Yep. The sad thing is, this is one of my better ones. No one showed up today. Yeah, that's okay.
You're working on it.
Yeah. You know, clearly what we're doing is not working, so. But we'll figure it out. All right, not bad. Not amazing, but not bad. I feel sorry for whoever's going to be over here next week.
Actually, I think it's going to be in 2 weeks because next week is.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, that's right. Next week. Not going to be here. Should put some kind of a note or something up. Anywho, there we go. Woo! Another one out of the way. Least it matters to me.
That's all it should.
Well, everyone have yourself a good week.